All right. How you guys doing?
Good.
All right. Ready to go here in a few days. And per usual, really happy with our entire organization. I always mention it, but the thing I probably love most about the draft is that it involves every ounce of our organization. And our process continues to evolve, improve, and really happy with where it's at. So couldn't be happier on where we're at. These next couple days, like people say, is the hay in the barn. The hay's never in the barn. We'll use every minute that we have to continue to really feel prepared, but we're at a really good place, and we'll continue to do things this week with coaches, with scouts, with our R&D department that continue to get us ready for every scenario that might happen. Talking with a lot of teams just on a variety of scenarios that could happen, and we'll open it up for questions.
John, first off, can you confirm that you have an agreement with Trent Williams?
Yes, I can confirm that, and we're really excited about that. Trent's a phenomenal player. I remember being on the phone with Ron Rivera during the COVID days at my house doing the draft, and that's where that thing came together. And was thrilled then. We still remain thrilled and really happy to have that behind us and Trent in the fold. And, as I told Trent when we started this thing, my hope is that, his name, his number are up in those rafters with a lot of great players that have played here. And, we couldn't be there. There's a buzz in the building. The players are back. It's the first day back for phase one, but there's a buzz because what Trent means to this place. So we're very excited.
And so getting this deal done with him 4 days before the draft, how does that impact what you're thinking early in this draft, first or second round?
Probably not a whole lot. I think in general, what free agency did this year, what signing a guy like Trent and having some finality there probably leaves you a little more comfortable in various scenarios. But I think what I liked about what we did in free agency this year is that there's not a ton of needs. There are needs. Every roster has them. We don't kick off, for quite a while. In Australia, I was going to tell you till Friday. I don't know if it's Friday, Thursday, whatever it is. But that's when we kick off. So we got a long time to go. But I don't think it really impacts because we've been basically, Trent's been there on our depth chart the whole time. We had a great deal of confidence that we'd get this done, and just happened to be the occasion that it's draft week that we did get it done.
What are your expectations for Brandon Aiyuk this weekend? I mean, is that something you think could happen? And have you been in discussions with any teams about trading him?
Yeah, I've had some discussions. Do I think it's a high probability? Likely no. But is there a chance? Yeah, I think there's a chance. And I think, as for that whole dialogue, I think I was candid with you guys in saying at the end of the season that he's likely played his last snap for us. We all are in concert on where we're going with Brandon. I do think, at league meetings, I talked to you guys. I thought it would have been irresponsible not to give it through league meetings because there's various inflection points where a lot of deals at least start to get talked about. The league meetings is a great opportunity because everyone in the league is there. The draft is another opportunity because a lot of things happen on draft week. So I think we'll see it through here. We'll focus on our draft. If something happens there, great. If not, we'll reevaluate it. He's still a member of this roster right now, and we'll treat him as such.
And just to follow up, have there been any discussions with specific teams about this?
Yes, yes.
John, you mentioned not having a lot of needs that you feel like on the roster now. When you're looking at this draft and you're picking as low as you are, how do you weigh kind of immediate impact versus maybe somebody who may have to wait a year or two to start? Like, how do you kind of, strike that balance?
Well, I think what you try to do is position your team such that you just don't have glaring holes where like we have to take this position. So there's some comfort in that. and I think it likely gives you a more of a belief and a comfort in just picking the best players. You can't go wrong taking good football players. And obviously, it's a combination of all those things. It's short term, it's long term. But I think having that in place, some of the things we've done this offseason gives us a great ability to go in with really a mindset of taking the best player, not just saying we've got to come out with this position.
John, Kyle had talked at the owners' meetings about how your run of sustained success was set up in large part by the draft and George Kittle and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw and even like a DJ Jones, Joanne Jennings, and saying, and I realize this is easier said than done. Just snap your fingers and get it, and this happens. But he said, we need more of those type of guys to infuse the roster with, for an aging type core.
Right.
Do you feel like when you look back at the past, several drafts, I mean, do you feel like you've fallen short, or is there more pressure to, get your next George Kittle in the 5th round or at the 4th round, I guess, this year?
Well, that's always what you're striving for, right? To find guys like that, and we've had some great success. I don't think it's necessarily bared out, but I do believe that we're going to look back on last year's draft class and feel really good about what we were able to accomplish. I mentioned it before, all 11 of those players are still here. I think a lot of them are going to be impact players. And, I think that's why you got to give this thing a couple of years, but that's always what we're striving for, to try to find players like those guys drafted. You're mentioning some Hall of Fame players there. And that's always the goal, to try to go find those guys. And I think we have a good idea of what we're looking for. And that's why we've been able to find those type of guys. I think the collaboration that we have as an organization, I think that's where it really bears fruit, is later in drafts, being able to find some people that we have conviction for, that we have consensus on. That's when we've done really well. So you're always striving for that.
John, you mentioned discussions with other teams. Don't know how far you've gone with any kind of trade talk, but would you say it's more likely to trade, just given the things you've talked about, you would trade out of the 1st round, or that you would trade up in the 1st round?
I think you try to stay malleable there, such that you can do anything. So really, up till now, Tim, and it does strike me every year, I think these conversations, when the inception of them, it moves forward, like it used to feel like kind of the day before the draft, you start having these conversations. Everybody's kind of moved up. There's more activity. And I think it lends towards that. I do believe that this is a draft, because I think like the top half of the 1st round probably runs out a little quicker in terms of what people deem true impact players. Now, I believe there's a lot of impact beyond that, but I do think there's going to be a lot of movement this year. It just feels like it's setting up for a draft like that, because it gets somewhat homogenous after that. And then it's kind of, what's your flavor? What are you looking for? And so I do think that sets up for a draft where there'll be a lot of movement. I'm not going to tip our hand, but we have had, we've done our homework. We'll continue to talk to teams and have discussions such that, if we see fit the opportunity to move up and grab a player that we really like, or we still like a bunch of players, so let's pick up. And now I would tell you, we don't have a ton of picks in this draft, right? So it does make some sense to how can we find some more picks? We'll certainly be open to that.
John, with the trades, do you have to do more advanced work this year with the 8-minute versus the 10-minute in the 1st round? And how often have you pushed up toward that 10-minute deadline in the past? Is it something you're?
I think when we picked Jacob Cowing, I remember that we pushed it about as close as you can get it. I think we got it in with like 2 seconds. I was looking at Justin Chabot typing, and it felt like he was typing with his elbows, like, ding, ding, I was like, come on, get it in. And it was like right before we took him. But that's a good point, moving up to 8 minutes, a little quicker. I think that's good. It will keep everyone, and it will just, I do believe that you're onto something as to why the dialogue is started earlier, because you aren't going to have that ability on draft day, 2 less minutes to make those things happen.
John, how much has it changed, I guess, more or less over your decade here in terms of using AI to get into players, and whether that's background checks or projecting on what they can do and how the draft would unfold?
Yeah, a lot. I think just like the rest of the world, I think if you aren't using it, you're already behind. And the cool thing is, what we found, you don't need to be an expert. Just like you at home planning a travel itinerary, you can just ask the thing and it can spit out some pretty good things, some pretty good ideas. Our developers, I think we're fortunate to be where we are, kind of at the epicenter of the innovation there, and we've tried to take advantage of that. I do think every team is probably using it in some form or fashion. I think that will only increase as we move forward.
John, given the fact that Bryce Huff retired and Michael Williams probably won't be available for week 1,
Yeah.
how big of a need is defensive end or edge rusher as you enter this draft?
Yeah. I think, first of all, when we got together here 10 years ago, that was always going to be at the forefront. The more good players you can add up front, we've always talked about, making life on opposing offenses, on opposing quarterbacks. You want them to have to perform under duress. It's the great equalizer in today's football. So much set up for the offense to have success. Can you put that quarterback under duress? Can you hit that quarterback? Can you pressure that quarterback? We fell short of that last year. Are there some reasons? Absolutely. Nick Bosa was hurt. Michael got hurt halfway through. But I think we need to get better in that spot. We need to get these guys back healthy, and then we need to improve there. Really excited about free agency. I think adding Osa. I just asked Corey, help me with the pronunciation. I'm just going to leave it as Osa. Adding Osa, I think he can really be an impact player. We really believe that he's going to, impact who we are, both in all facets of the game. Having Keon now another year with some more experience with who we are. But absolutely, you're always trying to add there, and we'll be open to that.
John, what has Raheem Morris brought to your guys' process? And some coaches like to be involved, some don't.
Yeah.
How impact or how much has he been involved?
Yeah, they don't have a choice here. I mean, they're that's kind of what we do, how we roll. Scouts are ahead of them because they've got jobs to do during the season. But Raheem's been the same guy. I remember when I sat in the back of the DB room, and Raheem was right behind me when he came down from Hofstra years ago. He's a bundle of energy. He's curious. He's insightful. He's a we always talk about there's guys who drain a room, and then there's guys who give life to a room. He gives life to a room. He's funny. His whole thing all draft is, if we draft this guy, I'm throwing a pool party, so we're hoping we're having a lot of pool parties for Raheem, but he's been awesome to work with, as has their entire staff. It is nice to get, obviously you're always striving for continuity, but it is nice when you breathe some new ideas. And I think we've been able to do that with Raheem. I think Kyle's familiarity, having worked with him before, I've worked with him before, so we're very comfortable with him. And Raheem has a way of disarming people with his personality. You feel like you know him the day you meet him, and so he's been a tremendous addition in terms of his contribution to this process.
John, assuming you guys stick at 27, in your mind, does that pick have to be a day one contributor, or are there scenarios where it could be an upside thing and the guy doesn't have to play?
Yeah, you're just looking for an impact player, and that can come in all shapes and sizes. And sometimes you pick a player at that spot. I know probably the expectation from the general public is you want that guy producing right away. Of course you do, but there are scenarios where you say, look, because of the way we're structured right now, and because of this guy's history, whatever it may be, it may take a little bit, but we believe that this guy can ultimately become is something special. He can be a needle mover. He can be a difference maker. In those scenarios, you might, consider taking a player like that.
Last year at this press conference, I think you told us you had 20 first-round grades on players and about 200 draftable players, obviously without being specific.
Right.
what are the numbers like this year? And has NIL or and that kind of thing reduced the amount of pool of players that are draftable?
Yes, I think it will. Now, I will say we're just about the same number of players draftable. Our first round grades are down. I don't want to give an exact number, but we're down a little bit in terms of the first round grades. But, it's something we talked about at league meetings. Can't blame these kids. There's ample opportunity to go back. Everybody always says college was the most fun I ever had. And now they're being presented with a lot of motivation to stay. And I think it's something we have to look at as a league, how we're going to address that, because, you don't want to look at the college ranks. We've always looked at it as somewhat of a feeder system. Now it's almost like we're in competition, and you're seeing a lot more 25-year-old rookies. That's probably the biggest change. COVID had something to do with it, but it's also the opportunity for these guys to stay and make good money doing what they're doing. I don't have all the answers there, but I do believe it's something as a league we have to pay a lot of attention to.
John, what's your level of attendance today? It's the first day of phase one.
Yeah.
Where are you standing on all the guys coming in?
I've been focused in draft meetings. I've checked really quick. It's really good. It's darn near whole. We're at phase one. These are voluntary workouts, but it's really good attendance. And so we knew that you have there's a lot of communication going on. So we knew that it would be, and sure enough it is. And but I don't have the exact numbers for you.
Do you have any injury updates or recovery updates for like George Kittle, Michael Williams?
No, they all continue to do well. Nothing worth mentioning that's changed from the last time we talked.
John, getting back to Trent real quickly, you've yourself mentioned early offseason, he is 30, he's going to be 38. That's a factor. But you have now signed him. Do you need to start putting together a serious replacement plan? We've all pointed out there really did not seem to be replacement options given this situation. Do you absolutely need to put one in place at least to have somebody ready at some point down the road that you can plug in at left tackle?
Sure. Now we did a 2-year deal with Trent with great confidence that Trent's going to be here for a couple of years. The way he takes care of himself, where his heart's at, I think in the inception of kind of this offseason, what I did, I sat down with Trent. Where you at, man? What's on your mind? What's on your heart? And so that gave us a great feel. I think there's going to be more and more cases of guys playing to this level, just the way guys are taking care of themselves. I have a high degree of confidence that Trent can and will do that for us. But absolutely, you have to be looking for whoever. That's a premium position as it is. I can tell you, Tim, we're really excited about Vidarian Lowe. He's a guy who started a lot of games in this league, and we felt like we needed to improve as a swing tackle. We also felt like before we had Trent done, we need to have somebody who can start some games if we run into some hiccups there. And so I think we have really good depth at tackle, but yeah, absolutely. That is a premium position. And we understand that, the end is closer than it has been. But we're excited moving forward with Trent.
John, what are the challenges? You alluded a little bit to the age. What are the challenges of evaluating a 20 or 21-year-old versus a 24 or 25-year-old when it comes to the draft?
I don't think it's the evaluation process. It's just like, what are you all right with as an organization? Sometimes we'll be up there and look, we're not trying to sign this guy for 15 years. We just want good. Let's get him to the first contract. Let's get him to his second contract, So I just am talking about the health of the league. It's wonderful when you have an accomplished, experienced player like Michael last year, who was 21 years old when we drafted him. When you're starting to talk about 25 and 26-year-olds, sometimes they've been a little more beat up. Sometimes there's a history. Like, why did he have so much movement? Why is he a 6-year guy? And there's a lot of reasons behind it. Certainly something we look into. But in terms of the evaluation, I don't think there's a huge difference.
John, looking forward to this season, is there anything you and Kyle Shanahan and your guys' staff are going to change about the workout programs and regimen, given the amount of injuries this past season?
Yeah, I think, I mentioned it at league meetings, but this wasn't in response. This was something we were already doing. but like, we're in a little bit of a unique situation. Our facilities at our stadium, that's our game day, so space is somewhat limited, but we weren't adequate in terms of our hydrotherapy. Guys are using that a lot, with injury prevention and injury recovery. That's being taken care of right now. We're going to have a really good answer there. We upped our staff. We kind of, took an audit of the league, and while we weren't low, we felt like, these players, that's one thing, the NIL and the money these colleges are spending, they're used to more one-on-one attention. And so we're addressing things of that nature. There may be some adjustments to the way, that we proceed in training camp with our planning and all that. Those things have always been part of our discussion. And you always run that deal, into that conversation. Look, we want to callous these guys up. Some of the healthiest teams in this league are some of the hardest working teams. So you never will sacrifice hard work, but absolutely you're always looking for any possible advantage. And I've mentioned some of the tangible things that we have addressed.
John, a minute ago, you talked about offensive tackle and called it a premium position. You guys have seemed to kind of lean into the traditional premium positions in the first round, but you also say you want the best player available. When you look at this draft, like, do those things align, or is this the type of scenario where sitting at 27, you may, in search of that best player available, look for a position that we wouldn't consider, a premium position, a safety, or no offense, of course,
Yeah.
or a guard?
I think safety is very premium. That might be a little personal. I always think the way those guys can affect the game, because they're asked to do a little bit of everything. But I'll get off that soapbox, and I'll get back to, I do think, it happens that, we talk about defensive line, particularly the edge. This draft is fairly deep there. It's a good position. I think the offensive line's fairly deep in this draft. Wide receiver, you have plenty of options. So I think there is alignment there, but I do believe just kind of where we're at, we need to add good young players, and so we're gonna, we have our vision of what we hold true to. We do a lot of studying of, okay, our best picks. Why were they our best picks, and what in our process did we miss on the guys who haven't? So we've done, as we do every year, a thorough review of that, and I think it really has us in a good mindset to just let this thing come to us. There's no other choice unless you're just going to move up and go from 6 picks to a lot less, to sit back and kind of let it happen. And so we'll do a lot of those simulations. It's pretty awesome now. You sit there on the computer and you let the thing run, and boom, all right, here's who's left. What are we going to do? And so a lot of this week will be those kind of situations, continuing to talk with other clubs so that we can have opportunities, whether that is moving up, moving back, and we'll be ready. Yeah.
You'd mentioned or you were asked about Joey Bosa at the annual meeting, and you said his price is too high. Well, you create a lot of salary cap space today. With Joey Bosa or other veteran free agents, how much does what you're able to accomplish in the draft impact how aggressive you can be with those veteran free agents who are still out there?
Yeah. I'll never say never, Matt, but I do think, like, we were aggressive this offseason. We made a lot of ads, and I think, now the focus really turns to the draft. We'll never close the door to things like that. I do want to congratulate Joey. I don't think I'm making news, but I believe he got married this last weekend, and congratulate him and the Bosa family. Nick says it was a heck of a party and celebration, and he's a heck of a player. And but I think kind of what I said there, I think we're at a place where we're comfortable with what we've done, and we're going to try to focus on the draft right now, and we'll see what happens after the draft. All right. Thank you, guys.
offseason going, right?
How's it been?
Yeah.
It's been great. Had some real good time away and some good family time, and glad to be back. Some new faces and stuff, so excited for this year.
With Kyle Shanahan at the annual meeting, and he said that the coaching staff was putting together kind of points of emphasis for you, about 5 points. I'm assuming you've seen that list, and just kind of what do you think of when you see kind of the offseason plan that the coaches have put together for you?
Actually, I haven't seen that, so sorry to turn away from that, but I'm sure we will. Obviously, first day back, and guys are coming in and getting ready to go on this journey together and everything. But I know Kyle's done a really good job with setting some key pieces in place for us, both on the coaching staff and for our roster as a whole. So just excited to get back and sort of get everybody going and stuff. But to your point, we will go over that soon. So
I don't know how closely you're following the Trent Williams contract situation, but given you're the quarterback and he's protecting your blind side, maybe you had some interest. What was the emotion when you maybe woke up this morning and found out the deal had been done?
Yeah, I mean, I was juiced. I mean, Hall of Famer, obviously, for what he's done for our team and for myself, and just as a young guy, coming into the league and having his leadership. I mean, extremely grateful for that guy, and more than anything, I know he's got a lot left in his tank, and so for him to come back and see that news, man, it's for our whole team, our locker room. What he brings to the table, man, is real, and so for all of us, man, we're fired up. So it's going to be good getting him back, and like I said, he's got a lot left, and I know he's going to have a chip on his shoulder to go out and get a ring for him and his resume and his career, and I want to help him do that.
Where were you and how did you hear, and what was your reaction when the team signed Mike Evans?
Trying to think. I was working out, I think at George's place maybe. And yeah, just got the news that we just signed Mike Evans, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And then up on in George's weight room, he's got a Mike Evans jersey, so I was just like, "All right, sick." Get to throw to this guy, big old receiver, and then obviously just what he's done, in his career, the 1,000 yards per season thing, just the quarterbacks that he's played with Tom Brady and Baker, and for me to be able to now throw to him, man, it's an honor, and can't wait to go to war with that guy.
There's a lot of great talk about Evans. He's probably a Hall of Famer. But nobody talked about Kirk, and I think he's a pretty good player. You know him from back wherever, but what do you think of him added to this mix?
Yeah, no, man, he's a guy that I followed really all throughout my career, just being an Arizona guy, and when I was growing up and he was in high school, I was like, this guy's a stud. So I followed him when he went to Texas A&M, and just like I said, his career. So now to be able to play with him and what he brings to the room, just a vet guy, very smart, and I think just for his position at the slot receiver and just how teams have used him. I'm excited that we get to now do that too. And more than anything too, I think what he can bring to our locker room and the receiver room as a whole, and just his wisdom, maturity, and that fire that he plays with, man, I'm really excited, to have that guy with us. So it's going to be good.
Following up on those two questions, is there anything off the field that you guys might have scheduled to kind of build some camaraderie and chemistry with a lot of the new guys in the locker room?
Yeah. We just got back, and, in the weight room, we went over just our goals and everything this year as a team and stuff. And then within that, Dustin Perry, our head of performance guy, just basically broke down, to us, like there's going to be opportunities for us off the field to go to baseball games and fishing trips and all these like things just around locally that, can help guys, come together, get to know one another. We've got new faces, and just build that brotherhood, man, because it's a long year, just like everybody knows. And so you want to just know the guy that you're playing to on the field, and those white lines. And so, yeah, we got stuff that we got planned. So
Evans, it complements your game, and how do you feel like he could even enhance your performance?
Yeah, I think he's obviously a big frame, which is always nice for a quarterback, especially, outside at receiver. But also like, even going into the red zone and stuff, just sort of watching some clips of, what him and Tom and Baker did with certain routes that he did, and creating leverage and being able to throw up, back shoulders and just really getting that guy in one-on-one situations. I think, as a quarterback, you sort of dream of those kind of, situations. And so watching the film and like understanding like, all right, this is a guy that, can help me with my game, just being aggressive and taking those one-on-one shots, and also watching, his route running ability, his quick game and the in breakers, like he can do everything, man. So For me to have a true X like that with Mike and what he's done in his career, I'm really excited for. And we're going to learn each other. We're going to get to know each other throughout, running routes and the timing and all that. And I'm excited to see, what comes from my game from it. So
With a receiver like him before?
I don't think like with his, speed or his size and all that, like it's a little different, but I've had some really good receivers obviously that I played with, but he's just different.
You are a franchise quarterback, which is a big deal, but he's Mike Evans. Did you have any concerns that he was coming after number 13? And were you thinking if he does, this is going to be a little awkward?
Yeah, we didn't get to that point. He hasn't asked me yet or anything. So, 13, I feel like for me is my number. So you'd have to ask, or you have to put a big price tag on it. But no, I think at the end of the day, we both want to win, and whatever it takes is what it takes. But he hasn't asked me, so.
Working out with George, and I know you're not a doctor or anything, but there's almost some noise that he may be back way earlier than anybody thought he would with the injury that he had. What's been your observations of seeing him work out? Does he look good to you?
Yeah, he looks great. Just like walking around and doing all the little things. I'm not really sure how the Achilles, recovery process looks or anything, but in my eyes, I'm like, he looks great, just in the weight room lifting and all the things. And obviously George is a guy that's going to do literally whatever it takes, all the different types of rehab and things to get right. I've learned a lot from him, to be honest, in that realm. So he looks great, and we'll see as we go. So.
They asked George to be the closer on the Mike Evans deal. Get on the phone with Mike and sell him on the 49ers. Were you kind of witness to that? Were you in Nashville when those conversations were happening?
I wasn't directly a part of it, like hitting up Mike or anything like that, but I was just hearing through George. I guess George had a connection with him somehow, some way, just throughout the past years playing with him and stuff, or playing against him. And so George just had an eye on him and was like, "We need Mike." And I was like, "Dude, I agree. Do what you got to do to get him here, man." So George did a great job with that. I mean, just that's same thing. Like I said, how I learned from George in the rehab world and what he's done for his body and stuff, like just the recruiting part of it too. Like seeing that, that plays a huge role in this, man. Like you can talk to guys and sort of cast a vision for guys out there of, wanting to go get something, and we can all help each other accomplish that. And so for George to do that with Mike Evans, like I learned in that situation, like it works and it's a real thing. So yeah, that was all George, man.
At the end of the season, you talked about how you just needed to have rest for your toe. Now you've had the rest. Does it feel like you're back to where it used to be?
Yeah, it feels great. And like I told you guys last year when I came back, when I do come back from this toe debacle thing, I'll be good to play my way of ball. Like that was the whole thing, and I did. And obviously with some time off and stuff and some more training and things like that, like it feels great. Feeling like I'm in a really good spot.
Do you look at rookie receivers at all with the draft approaching, or do they not include you in that?
Yeah, I'm not included in that. Sort of just find out who we're drafting and roll from there. So
Set up a off season, maybe meet up with Mike Evans and Christian Kirk to get some extra time in.
yeah, I would love to. Obviously, we have OTAs and all that here. We're going to get real good work in, but come summertime too, going into season when we get some time away, would love to, get all those guys together and, sort of just have them help out the young guys too. And, just have our timing and everything get built up. So once we come back from camp, we're ready to roll. Thanks, guys.
Well. Here we are. Hello, everyone.
What was your reaction when you found out the 49ers are returning this year to play a game in Mexico?
So excited. I think back to when we played there back in 22, and that was a phenomenal experience. And the fact that we get to play there again, I think it'll be even better this time. So I'm really excited for it.
How are you feeling, first of all, and just any limitations, anything? What are you able to do here in this kind of first phase?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling extremely blessed, grateful to be back, feeling great, and no restrictions, just being able to jump right in. And that's honestly, during the practice, kind of gave me all the confidence in the world to really attack training during the offseason, not having to start from doing rehab and everything, just going from ground zero, building up just like I would any other offseason. So it's been great.
To be clear, there'll be no restrictions moving forward.
No restrictions. Yep.
Tell us how you found out that Dre Greenlaw was going to come back and the process, and I know you were there for his signing.
Yeah, I mean, it was, just talking with him kind of as it was all unfolding that day where we did sign him. He FaceTimed me and said, man, I'm coming back. And, of course, I couldn't wipe the grin off my face. So, I mean, it's unbelievable having him back. Obviously, a phenomenal player, a brother of mine, but just like a pure culture guy for our team. I think his ability to elevate everybody around him is what's really special about him. And I know he'll help, all the young guys in that room. He'll help me, help the rest of our defense and our team get where we want to go.
That Dre Greenlaw has with Trent.
Sorry.
So he was the one who broke the news to you?
Yeah, he was the one that let me know. Yeah.
So speaking of continuity, because John Lynch mentioned that earlier, and then you just spoke about the culture that he has, the leadership that he brings. Trent Williams able to make that agreement with the team. How does that kind of add having Dre Greenlaw back, Trent Williams back? You're healthy. George Kittle's making his way back seemingly pretty well. To have that leadership kind of all coming together at this point as you guys head into the season.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's great for what we're trying to build. Right, you want the perfect balance of young players who are coming in hungry, and then you have your more seasoned, experienced players who have been here, know what the standard looks like, and know what where we're trying to go, right? And so we're kind of blending everything together right now in OTAs and kind of building it from the ground up. And I mean, you want obviously the best players possible to give yourself a chance to go do what you want to do.
A sense of what a Raheem Morris defense is going to look like and what's going to be on your plate.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. I think as time goes on and we kind of have more of that discussion and start doing more stuff on the field, I'll kind of get a better sense of that. But just with early conversations with him, it sounds like a lot of the stuff will be similar. But like I said, time will obviously tell.
I know plenty of defenses that have had to defend Mike Evans. From that position of having a game plan for it, what makes him so tough and what's he giving you guys?
Well, I mean, obviously he a true 6'5" receiver, right? And he's a physical cat, but I think just his competitive spirit, honestly, is what I think just kind of exudes on the field, and something that I think fits perfectly with what we need and what we want for our team. I think that he'll be a huge addition to that room, not only with his playmaking ability, but just helping the younger guys in that room as well. So just having the conversations I've had with him, he's made of the right stuff. And I'm excited to have him.
How hard was it to see the Seahawks win a Super Bowl here? And was there any communication with you and your teammates after that?
I mean, it wasn't ideal, that's for sure. I was actually here having to witness it all while I was doing the broadcasting for that game. But it is what it is, man. And them winning a Super Bowl last year has no effect or bearing on what we do going forward, right? It's always a loss in our eyes when we're not the ones winning it. It doesn't matter if it's Seattle, if it's an AFC team or whoever it is. It doesn't matter if it's not the 49ers, then I'm hot about it, right? So, like I said, it has no bearing on what we do going forward. We're excited to get to work and ultimately try to get where we're trying to go.
KJ Wright takes over as the linebacker coach and Johnny moves into a different role. Obviously, you worked with KJ last year. A lot of people like KJ. What can you tell us about KJ and how you think he'll do in this role?
Yeah, I think he'll do amazing, man. I think he's obviously ready for his moment. He's been able to learn under one of the best in Johnny Holland, who was fantastic for me and my growth in our room as a whole. But yeah, I think KJ, having been there, played the game at a high level, and now having learned under Johnny to be ready for his moment, I think he'll do a great job. And, it's collaboration, right? All of us working together, being coachable, having a coachable spirit to learn from KJ. And I know he'll get us right where we want to be.
What was it like navigating the linebacker room last year without Dre?
Without Dre, you said? I mean, it was different, right? I think every year is different. You lose guys to free agency, you know, and the team looks different. Obviously, having played with Dre for so long, it was definitely different. But you know, there's been years where he was injured, and I, you know, had to play alongside a different guy out there, and so, you know, you just kind of you go with whatever you got and try to make the most of it. But obviously, we're happy to have him back now.
I know you're not privy to all his training sessions and stuff, but from the videos I've seen, George Kittle's not moving around like a guy that had the injury that he had as late as he had last year. And there's talk that he could be back way earlier than anybody anticipates. Do you have any take on that at all? If he's talked over?
Well, I'm not exactly sure where he is in this process, but just knowing George, the person and the player, right? I mean, his makeup and who he is, I'm not surprised at all, you know, with him being able to attack his rehab and having all the resources available to make sure that he's progressing the way that he is. I mean, he's one of the best that's ever done it, you know, at the position. And just with his mindset, you translate those things from when you play the game to your rehab and just kind of you're attacking in the same way you attack being on the field, right? And so, like I said, I don't know exactly where he's at with his rehab, but I know he's probably way above and beyond, like you said, because that's just who he is.
What do you know about Osa Odighizuwa, and how will he improve this defense?
Shoot, I don't know too much, but I know that he's gonna be disruptive for us up front. And you know, I think time, like I said, with kind of when we were talking about Raheem earlier, just time will tell, right? In my mind, with guys who come on the team or guys who have been here, really, whatever you've done in your past has nothing to do with what you're going to do going forward, right? It's a whole new year for all of us. You know, we all got to go out there and prove it every single day. Osa seems like he's made of the right stuff, even today, like being in the weight room, like being the last one in there, just training hard. Like he's made. I could tell he's made of the right stuff, but it's about what you do on the field at the end of the day. And so that's why, you know, when we get out there, that's what we'll see exactly who Osa is.
What are your memories of going against Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk, you know, we played against each other when he was in Jacksonville a couple years back. I don't know if that was the best game for him, unfortunately. We were gritting after him a little bit. But, you know, he's a great player. I'm really excited about him being with us. You know, dynamic player, obviously mature and has been around the game for a long time. Was in Houston last year, I think. So, yeah, I think he's made of the right stuff, and he'll be a great addition for us and with what he can do with the ball in his hands.
Fred, from your perspective, how do you consume the draft? Are you watching it over the 3 days? You send any text messages to John like, hey, kind of like
No, I have no say so on who we picking. I'll say that, but I'm definitely glued to the TV, you know, to see who's gonna join the old 49er faithful, you know, and usually send a text out to the rookies, letting them know welcome to the team and everything. So it's an exciting time of year. I can't wait. All right, thanks, guys. Yep.